The scratching stopped at exactly 3:47 a.m. That's when I knew something was wrong. Because whatever was outside my tent, it wasn't an animal anymore. The silence that followed was worse than any sound I'd ever heard. And in that silence, I heard it breathe. Close. So close I could feel the moisture against the nylon. Then it spoke, in my voice, calling my own name from outside. The Navajo have a word they won't say after dark. A name for something that wears the skin of what it kills. Something that walks on two legs but moves like it's forgotten how. I never believed in any of that. Not until I spent 3 nights alone in the Arizona desert, miles from anyone who could hear me scream. My name is Marcus, and I'm a wildlife photographer. I've spent years in remote places, sleeping under stars most people will never see. I thought I understood the wilderness. I thought I knew what fear felt like. I was wrong on both counts. It was late September when I drove out to the Navajo Nation, chasing rumors of a rare desert fox sighting. The locals at the gas station were friendly enough until I mentioned where I was headed. An old man buying coffee turned to look at me. His eyes were the color of smoke. He didn't say, "Don't go." He just said, "Stay in your vehicle after dark, no matter what you hear, no matter who calls your name." Then he left. I laughed it off. Superstition, I thought. Local color. I set up camp 3 miles off the main road, in a canyon where the rock walls seemed to swallow the sunset whole. The desert has a specific kind of quiet. It's not silence, exactly. It's the absence of anything familiar. No traffic hum, no distant voices, just wind and sand and the occasional cry of something hunting in the dark. Before you turn off the lights, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Because here at Chills from Reality, every story leaves a mark, one you might not forget. And trust me, you'll want to remember what comes next. The first night was normal. I photographed the landscape at golden hour, ate freeze-dried pasta from my camping stove, and fell asleep to the sound of wind pushing through the canyon. I dreamed about home, about my apartment in Denver, about normal things. I woke up to footsteps, heavy, deliberate, circling my tent in a wide arc. I grabbed my flashlight, but didn't turn it on. My heart was hammering so hard, I thought whatever was out there could hear it. The footsteps stopped directly behind me, just on the other side of the tent wall. I could see the shadow through the fabric, tall, impossibly tall, standing completely still. I held my breath. 1 minute, 2, 5, then it moved again. Slower this time, like it was studying the tent, learning it. When morning came, I found the tracks. Barefoot, human-shaped, but the toes were too long, the stride was too wide, and they circled my tent exactly 47 times. I counted. I'm not sure why I counted. Maybe because counting felt like control, and control was the only thing keeping me from driving straight home. I told myself it was a prank, some local kid messing with the outsider. I almost believed it, but the tracks led away from my camp and just stopped. In the middle of open ground, no brush to hide in, no rocks to climb. They just ended, like whatever made them had stepped into the air and vanished. I should have left then, I know that now, but I'm stubborn and stupid. And I'd driven 6 hours to get good photographs. So I stayed. I convinced myself that fear was just adrenaline, and adrenaline was just chemistry. I convinced myself that I was safe, that I was rational, that there was an explanation. The second night, I heard my mother's voice. She died 4 years ago. Lung cancer. I was holding her hand when she went. So when I heard her calling my name from somewhere in the dark canyon, I knew it wasn't her, but the voice was perfect. Every inflection, every breath. "Marcus, honey, where are you? I can't find you in the dark." My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the flashlight. It rolled under my sleeping bag, still on, casting wild shadows across the tent walls. "Marcus, please, I'm scared. I don't know where I am." I wanted to answer. God help me. Some broken part of my brain wanted to unzip that tent and go to her. But I remembered the old man's words. No matter who calls your name. I clamped my hands over my ears and squeezed my eyes shut like a child hiding from thunder. The voice got closer and closer until it was right outside, pressed against the tent fabric. "Why won't you help me, Marcus? Don't you love me anymore?" Then it laughed, not like my mother, not like anything human. A wet clicking sound that came from a throat that wasn't shaped right. I heard it walk away, not footsteps this time. Something dragging, something heavy and wrong, pulling itself across the sand. I didn't sleep. I sat there with my knife in one hand and my phone in the other, even though I had no signal. I watched the tent walls for shadows. I listened for breathing, and I waited for dawn like a drowning man waits for air. When the sun finally broke over the canyon rim, I packed everything. I was leaving. I didn't care about the photographs or the wasted trip or what anyone would think. I was done. But when I got to my truck, all 4 tires were slashed. Clean cuts, surgical, and scratched into the dust on my hood was a single word written in letters 3 feet tall. Stay. That's when I realized I wasn't alone in the canyon, and whatever was with me didn't want me to leave. Not yet. I tried my radio. Dead. My phone had dropped to 5% battery overnight, even though it had been fully charged and turned off. I checked my spare tire. Slashed. My emergency kit. Gone. Someone, or something, had gone through my supplies while I was in the tent, while I was covering my ears and pretending not to hear my dead mother's voice. The canyon walls felt closer suddenly, like the rocks were leaning in to watch. I made a decision. I'd walk out, 3 miles back to the main road. Someone would pass eventually. I filled my backpack with water, a first aid kit, and my camera. If I was going to die out here, at least there'd be evidence. At least someone would know what happened. I started walking just after 8 a.m. The sun was already brutal. Heat shimmered off the rocks in waves, making the distance look liquid. I kept my eyes on the horizon. I didn't look at the canyon walls. I didn't look behind me. I just walked. By noon, I realized I was lost. The road should have been close. I'd marked my route on GPS before I lost signal. But nothing looked right. The landmarks were wrong. I'd passed the same twisted juniper tree 3 times from different directions. The canyon was looping me, folding back on itself. Or maybe I was just losing my mind. Dehydration makes you see things, makes you stupid. I drank more water. I kept walking. That's when I found the bones, half buried in the sand, scattered like someone had taken them apart to study. They were human, I could tell from the skull. But the joints were wrong. Bent backwards, snapped, arranged in a circle around a flat stone. And on that stone, someone had drawn symbols in what looked like dried blood. I didn't recognize the language. I didn't want to. I stepped around the circle carefully. Some part of me, the part that still remembered childhood prayers and grandmother's warnings, knew not to disturb it, not to touch. Would you have kept walking? Or would you have run? Tell me in the comments, because I still don't know if I made the right choice. I heard it following me an hour later. No footsteps. Just the sound of something moving through the brush parallel to me. Keeping pace, staying just out of sight. Every time I stopped, it stopped. Every time I turned to look, I saw nothing. Just heat shimmer and rock and the skeletal shadows of dead trees. But I could feel it watching, the way you feel eyes on your back in a dark parking lot. The way you know your prey before you see the predator. The sun was setting when I finally found my camp again. Not the road, My camp, the same torn tent, the same slashed truck. I'd walked in a perfect circle, 12 hours, and I was right back where I started. That's when I understood. I wasn't lost. I was being kept. Something had claimed this canyon, and now it had claimed me. Night fell fast in the desert. One moment there was light, and the next there was nothing but stars and dark and the sound of my own breathing. I climbed into the truck bed, figuring it was better than the tent. At least I could see what was coming. I had 3 bottles of water left, a granola bar, and a battery percentage that was blinking red. I turned off my phone to save it, just in case. In case of what? I didn't know. But hope makes you stupid. Hope makes you think you have a chance. It came for me at 2:13 a.m. I know the exact time because I was staring at my watch, counting the seconds between each minute, trying to stay awake. I heard it climbing, claws on metal, scraping up the side of the truck. Slow, deliberate. I spun around with my flashlight, and for one brief second, I saw it. Crouched on the roof of the cab, staring down at me. It looked like a man. Almost. The proportions were wrong. Arms too long. Spine bent at an angle that would have broken a human in half. Its skin was pale, stretched tight over bones that seemed to shift beneath the surface. But the worst part, the part that still wakes me up sweating in the middle of the night, was its face. Because it was my face, my exact face, wearing my expression. Smiling my smile, it tilted its head and spoke in my voice. "Why are you so afraid of yourself, Marcos?" Then it lunged. I threw myself backward, rolling off the truck bed and hitting the sand hard. I heard it land behind me, heavy, wrong. I ran, no direction, no plan, just pure animal panic. I ran into the dark canyon, with no light, no sense of where I was going, just the certainty that staying still meant dying. I could hear it behind me, not chasing, following. Like it had all the time in the world, like this was a game it had played before. I don't know how long I ran. Minutes, hours. Time stopped meaning anything. I tripped over rocks I couldn't see. I slammed into canyon walls that appeared out of nowhere. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. And still, I heard it behind me, breathing, laughing, calling my name in my voice. Then I saw the light. A campfire. Distant. Flickering orange against the black. I changed direction and sprinted toward it. Toward people. Toward help. Toward anything that wasn't alone in the dark with that thing wearing my face. I stumbled into a clearing and saw them. 3 people sitting around a fire, a man and 2 women. They turned to look at me. Their faces were calm, too calm. "Are you lost?" one of them asked. Her voice was kind, concerned, completely wrong. I stopped 10 feet away. Something in my gut was screaming. I looked at their faces. Really looked. Their eyes didn't reflect the firelight. Their shadows fell in the wrong direction. And when they smiled, I saw that their teeth were too white, too many, too sharp. "Come sit with us, Marcus," the man said. "You must be tired." They knew my name. I'd never told them my name. I backed away slowly. All 3 stood up in perfect unison. Still smiling, still watching me with those flat, dead eyes. "Where are you going?" one of the women asked. "We've been waiting for you." I turned and ran again. I heard them following. Not just the 3 from the fire, more, many more. Footsteps from every direction, voices calling my name, my mother, my father, my sister who lives in Portland, friends I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them, all calling, all getting closer. The canyon was full of them. Full of things wearing familiar faces, speaking in stolen voices, pretending to be human. I found the cave by accident. Fell into it, really. A crack in the canyon wall hidden by shadow. I crawled inside and pressed myself against the back wall. It was so dark I couldn't see my own hands. I covered my mouth to muffle my breathing. And I listened. They were searching for me. I could hear them moving past the entrance, calling, pleading, threatening. "Marcus, please come out. We're worried about you." "Marcus, this isn't funny anymore." "Marcus, if you don't come out, we'll come in." But they didn't come in. They couldn't or wouldn't. Something about the cave kept them out. I waited there in the dark, my back against cold stone, my heart hammering against my ribs. I waited for dawn, for death, for anything that wasn't this. The scratching started around 4 a.m. All around the cave entrance, dozens of hands, clawing at the rock, trying to dig through, trying to reach me. I heard them whispering to each other in a language that hurt my ears, sounds no human throat should make. And under it all, a wet, rhythmic breathing, like something massive was sleeping just outside, something the others were trying to wake. I must have passed out. When I opened my eyes, the cave was gray with early light. The scratching had stopped. The voices were gone. I crawled to the entrance and looked out. The clearing was empty. The fire was dead. There were no footprints, no sign that anything had been there at all. Except for one thing. On the wall across from the cave, someone had drawn a symbol in what looked like ash. The same symbol I'd seen on the stone with the bones. And underneath it, in neat block letters, "Tonight. Have you ever felt true despair? The kind that erases hope so completely you can't even remember what hope felt like?" That's where I was. Sitting in the dirt outside a cave in a canyon that wouldn't let me leave, waiting for nightfall, waiting for things wearing human faces to come back and finish whatever game they were playing. My water was gone. My phone was dead. And I was so far past fear that I'd come out the other side into something cold and clear and quiet. But I didn't give up. I'm not built that way. I'm stubborn, remember? Stupid and stubborn. I climbed. If I couldn't walk out of the canyon, maybe I could climb out. The walls were steep, but there were handholds, cracks and ledges. I'd done some climbing in college. I knew the basics. It was dangerous. Probably suicidal, but staying was certain death. At least this way, I had a chance. I climbed for 3 hours. My fingers bled. My arms shook. But I made progress. Real progress. The canyon floor dropped away below me. The air got thinner. And then, when I was maybe 200 feet up, I saw it. Carved into the rock face, the same symbol. Over and over. Dozens of them. Hundreds, covering the entire wall. Someone had spent years carving them. Or something. They spiraled up toward the rim, covering every possible route. And I understood. Finally. This wasn't a canyon. It was a cage, and the symbols were the bars. I climbed down. What else could I do? I climbed down and sat in the sand and waited for the sun to set. I thought about my mother. My real mother. The one who taught me to tie my shoes and make pancakes and not be afraid of thunderstorms. I thought about my sister, about my apartment, about all the normal, beautiful, boring things I'd never see again, and I made peace with it. Or tried to. Acceptance doesn't come easy when you're 29 years old and about to die in a place no one will ever find you. The sun touched the horizon. The shadows grew long, and I heard them coming, not hiding this time, not pretending. The sound was like wind through dead trees, like static from a radio tuned to nothing. They emerged from the canyon walls themselves, peeling out of shadow and stone. Dozens of them, wearing faces I knew and faces I didn't, walking on legs that bent wrong, smiling with mouths that opened too wide. They formed a circle around me. The one wearing my face stepped forward. It moved like water now, like it had forgotten how to pretend. It reached for me with hands that had too many fingers. And it spoke, not in my voice this time, in something older, something that made my ears bleed and my vision blur. You were not invited. it said. But now you are claimed. Now you are one of us. I closed my eyes. I thought of the old man at the gas station, his smoky eyes, his warning, stay in your vehicle. No matter what, I'd broken the rule, and this was the price. I felt its hands on my shoulders, cold, so cold it burned. I felt my skin starting to crack, to peel, to change, and then I heard the gunshot. My eyes snapped open. The thing wearing my face staggered backward. Black liquid poured from a hole in its chest. It looked confused, almost hurt. There was another shot, and another. The creatures scattered, melting back into shadow. And standing at the edge of the clearing was the old man from the gas station. He was holding a rifle, and he was saying something in a language I didn't understand. Chanting, the words felt like pressure in my skull, like gravity. He grabbed my arm and pulled me to my feet. "Run," he said. Just that one word. We ran. He led me through paths I hadn't seen before, under overhangs, through narrow gaps in the rock. The creatures followed. I could hear them, but they kept their distance, like they were afraid of the old man, or of the words he kept chanting under his breath. We reached a truck parked on the main road. He shoved me inside. "Don't come back," he said, "and don't tell anyone what you saw. They wouldn't believe you anyway." He drove me to the gas station and left me there with a bottle of water and a blanket. By the time I turned around to thank him, he was gone. The woman working the counter said I was the fourth person he'd pulled out of that canyon in the last 10 years. She said I was lucky, that most people who camp there don't come back at all. She said the Navajo have been trying to close that area for decades, but the state won't listen. Tourism money, she said. Like money matters when something is hunting in the dark. I never went back. I sold my camera equipment. I moved to a city where the lights never go out and you can hear your neighbors through the walls. I got a desk job. I stopped chasing beauty in lonely places. Because I learned something in that canyon. I learned that some places aren't meant for us. That some things are older than our understanding. That there are doors we shouldn't open and names we shouldn't say and warnings we should listen to when old men with smoky eyes offer them. To this day, I still hear them sometimes, late at night, when the city is as quiet as it ever gets. I hear scratching at my window. I hear my mother calling my name. I hear myself speaking from the hallway outside my apartment. But I don't answer. I don't look. I stay very still, and I wait for dawn, because whatever followed me out of that canyon, whatever piece of that place attached itself to me, it's still out there. Still trying, still patient. Some nights I wonder if it's waiting for me to break, waiting for me to open the door, waiting to finish what it started. The Navajo were right. Some things shouldn't be named, some places shouldn't be visited, and some stories shouldn't be told, but I'm telling it anyway. Because maybe you'll be smarter than I was, maybe you'll listen to the warnings. Maybe you'll stay in your vehicle after dark, or maybe you won't. Maybe curiosity will win. Maybe you'll think you're different, that you're prepared, that it won't happen to you. And when you're sitting alone in the dark in some beautiful empty place and you hear your name called in a voice you recognize, maybe you'll remember this story. And maybe, just maybe, you won't answer. If this story made your heart race, hit that like button and subscribe. Because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. And remember, some things are watching right now from places you can't see. Stay safe out there, or don't. Either way, they're waiting.